Not the best weather, but the best news. It is time to close on this home, 548 Noelton Drive. It is so cute, the cutest tutor in all the land in Sequoia Hills. So let's talk all things behind the scenes of getting this home sold. Okay, we are inside 548 Noelton. We're actually in the kitchen right now. Just wanted to give you some behind the scenes. So this is the house where I was the listing agent. So I was contacted by the owners to sell their home. Why were they selling? In this case, they're relocating. Their family is growing, and so it was time for them to get closer to family. So it was time for them to sell this house and move on. So that being said, there were a couple things with the timeline. One being that there was a baby coming, and the other being that they didn't really want to be showing their house with a newborn. So we essentially took all that into consideration. They also had a dog, they had a small child. So in this case, what we did is I met with them. They had a couple of like little, I don't even want to say repairs, little like ticky-tacky things that they needed a handyman to address. They had a tree moved out of the yard, and so the backyard was, it needed a little bit of love. It needed some TLC. And then it needed things like pressure washing. We needed to move some furniture around, just some things like that. And so that was all prep for listing photo and video, and of course for listings as well. But we wanted to also make sure like the backyard, if it hadn't been if that tree situation hadn't been cleared out, it wasn't gonna look great in photos, even though the yard is great, right? So that being said, in this case, we kind of I made them a whole list of things that needed to be addressed. And so I provided them that list. So that was after our first meeting. We did talk a little bit about pricing. When it comes to pricing, we really wait until right before we're about to list to decide on a list price. At that time, I brought them comps. I brought them what all the automated valuations say online, and then also what their most similar comps are within this area, which this area is Sequoia Hills specifically. So we looked about plus or minus 20% square footage, 90 days of sales, 120 days of sales to see what our competition was, what's moving, what is an adequate price per square foot. So we kind of talked about all of that. Also, on that first time we met, they showed me around the house. That's when I put together my list of all the things. And then we talked about their goals. So their goals in this case is, yeah, we want to make the most money, but also we have a lot of changes happening. Number one, we have a baby coming. Number two, we are completely moving out of the state. And so what they wanted was that process to be as seamless as possible. So we did talk quite a bit about whether or not they wanted to sell it before the baby came, if they wanted to be on market when the baby had just arrived, what did that look like? And then also, of course, they've got a dog, they've got a toddler, as I mentioned. And so what would make this process the easiest? So what we did, they got all those things together, all the handyman items, they addressed those things. We had a cleaner come, we did that stuff, and that was all in preparation for our listing photos and videos, I should say. We did those things before the baby came because we weren't sure what things were going to be like, but also, as I mentioned, there's a dog, there's a toddler involved, and so once you bring another baby into that, it's hard to get your house ready, right? So essentially we set out about a 2-week time period, and in 2 weeks we had our photo and video scheduled. We came on that day, we did all of our photos and all of our videos. That was before the baby arrived, and that was about a month or so before we went on market. And the other piece of that is the house was still furnished, because at that time they weren't sure if they were going to leave their furniture here while we were showing the house, or if they were going to go ahead and just move out completely. So we went ahead and had all of our photo and videos made, and knowing that and essentially they started having their timeline of like, okay, once the baby's born, then we're going to move 2 weeks later or whatever. So we got all of our listing assets ready. So all that stuff was done. So they weren't worried about having the house beautiful and show ready with a brand newborn baby. So we did all those things. Baby comes, and then they go ahead and move away. They relocate. Once they relocate, they decided to go ahead and they did take all of their furniture. So we did show it empty. So you can just see like, there's obviously nothing here anymore. But so what they did is went ahead and just moved out completely because that was just gonna be easier for their family. It just made more sense for their situation. So that being said, they moved out. We had the cleaner come and do the final like big clean once they were completely out, and we put it on the market. We looked at pricing. We looked at, you know, what's the strategy there, those kind of things. And then showings started. Now we had a ton of showings on this house. First of all, pricing was competitive, but also we're in an iconic, literally iconic area of Knoxville. And it's one of the most like desired neighborhoods in the US, period. Most envied, I think is what the article said. But that being said, we have location to our favor. This house is also cute, but it's also been updated. So for example, the master bedroom, it has a really nice closet. There's been added storage. There's a really nice basement. This has a great yard. This is on an awesome street. Like, it's got beautifully refinished hardwoods. You know, and this kitchen is updated. So it had a lot going for it. And just really nice spaces. I mean, it's a beautiful home. So that all helped. Obviously, our marketing was great. Pictures were beautiful. The video is beautiful. Like, we really worked to show the vision of what this home is. However, every pushback, well, not every, most pushback that we got was regarding the bathroom situation. So this home has 3 bedrooms plus like a space downstairs in the basement that they use as like a guest area, and that's also how they use that's oh my gosh, stutter. That's how they showed it in our pictures, because they use that as a guest area. There's 3 floors in this home, 3 bedrooms, 1 full bathroom, 2 half baths. So there's 3 toilets, there's 3 bathroom sinks, there's 1 place to shower. And this is where we got the majority of our pushback. The other piece of that is that that full bath is on the top floor. So, you know, we had quite a bit of people that they wanted something where there was a full bathroom on the main level. It doesn't exist. There's a half bath here. And so that was the one kind of overcome piece, because we knew off the bat, based on our showings, like, we're not way off on price. We're not way off on anything. The pushback was about the functionality of this house itself. And actually, the sellers, had they stayed here, their plan was to add a shower in the basement, and plumbed in for that. But life circumstance happened. They never actually did that because it just didn't make sense when they decided to relocate. So that was the major piece of feedback. And then let me also just say this. When it comes to, especially right now, currently, as I'm making this, it's December. We just got into December of 2025. A lot of people are worried about offending a seller with an offer. But here's the thing. The offer that we ended up, the buyer that we ended up getting, she came in very low, extremely low. However, we negotiated. We went back, I think we had 4 or 5 or more counters back and forth until we got to a place that made sense for both parties, right? So that being said, I had other people say like, oh, you know, what about this? What about this? But it's like, well, you have to put that offer in writing. You have to put yourself out there, because that offer is the only way to get the conversation started. Now, on the sell side, we countered on the sell side of things that made sense for the seller. Now, we did have another offer that was higher that had come in, but it had a lot of contingencies on it that the sellers were not comfortable with. And it was a very kind of risky, in a sense, offer, because that buyer had had their home on the market before they had made an offer. They took the home off the market. It had been on the market like 12 days, something like this. They decided, you know what, I'm gonna wait. I don't know the whole story. I did not represent the buyers, but this is, you know, from just conversation. So what happened then is then that buyer saw this house, which was just weird timing, right? Because they wanted to be back in this location. They had lived here before. They wanted to be back in Sequoia Hills, which is what we see actually quite often when you're in Sequoia Hills, in a location like this. People move to Farragut, or they go somewhere else, and they're like, no, wait, I want to be back in. So, and actually the person that is buying this house, that is their story as well. They used to be in Sequoia Hills, and they missed it, and they're coming back. So anyways, one of the other offers that we got, that buyer had had their home on the market. They took it off. This house that I'm standing in hits the market. That buyer's like, oh, I want to buy that house. You know, whatever. They put an offer in. However, they had that home sale contingency. But that house wasn't on the market anymore. And also, there was almost 2 weeks of data to show that that house hadn't moved. So on the seller side, that seemed very risky, right? Because you've already had your house on the market recently and there was no action. Now, it was a very short time, you know, in the whole scheme, but it's felt for the sellers like that's a bit too much of a risk to take on. So all of that being said, they just weren't comfortable doing that. And so that offer didn't make sense. And actually where we ended up settling with our current buyer is a bit of a net less than that offer. However, this buyer was pretty much a sure thing. She had a home sale contingency, but all contingencies on that sale had been satisfied. Her buyer was a cash buyer. She had a cash backup. So these are all things that we ask when we see a home sale contingency, because not all home sale contingencies are the same. There could be a home sale contingency where that house isn't even listed yet, or there could be a home sale contingency where they're through inspection, maybe there is no appraisal, or it's through appraisal, the buyer is cash, like you are essentially clear to close. Those are very different home sale contingencies. So that's why we don't necessarily say, oh, we're not taking a house, we're not taking an offer that's contingent on a home sale. We don't necessarily say that because there's a lot of gray in those situations. So anyways, that being said, in this case, the buyer that ended up buying this house, she did have a home sale contingency, but as I said, her house was already under contract and she had a backup offer. So if anything happened with her primary, she was automatically going to be under contract. So there was a lot less risk when it came to the sell side. There was a lot more like sureness about what was going on. We were able to negotiate for these sellers terms that made sense for them, a closing date that made sense, obviously a money amount that they felt good and confident about. So anyhow, that's some of the behind the scenes. And as always, don't want to fail to mention this, with all of our homes that we list, or that I list, I should say, we do color brochures. So all of our buyers that come through, they get a nice kind of piece to take with them. It's just a nice thing to have, but also, you know, it kind of elevates the experience of coming to see this house as well. We obviously do professional photo, professional video. When I say professional video, we have a video that's tied to the MLS. We have a video that's on YouTube, which gets organic reach. So if someone goes to Zillow or Realtor.com, they see 548 Noelton, and then they were to search that house, this video tour would pop up. We also have all of our video marketing ads. So that, for example, is this is a combination of professionally done reels with music and a vibe, and it's a whole thing. And then also we have talking heads where I'm like, this neighborhood is awesome. Look at this sunroom, because this house has the most amazing sunroom. So all of those things come together to help market this property. At the end of the day, the goal with all properties that we sell as a part of the Haley Jones Homes team is that the more eyeballs, the more buyers are going to be available. We just have to expose this. This house also went on the back of the bi-monthly marketing brochure that I send to this neighborhood. So everyone in Sequoia Hills saw this home. Everyone saw that it was highlighted on that marketing brochure, that marketing piece. And that's something that I've been doing almost 2 years now. So that is something that's a consistent piece of marketing that everyone in Sequoia Hills is receiving. So again, just as many eyes as possible. That's like saying, hey neighbor, this house in Sequoia Hills is for sale. Like, who do you know? So all of those things are different ways that we market different ways we marketed this property and all of our properties. Specifically to Sequoia Hills, obviously, because that's where I farm, or that's where I send a bunch of marketing to. So this property benefited from that. So anyways, that being said, those are some of the behind the scenes of this home, of getting this home sold. And yeah, I think that's everything. It's a cute house. Let me just show you the sunroom because it's so magical, and I dream of this kind of sunroom. I mean, this house has so much character. You've got your original wood window framing, but look at these archways. I mean, totally dreamy. But this sunroom, this was actually really cute because they actually had this as their dining room. So they had a dining room table here. I mean, isn't this, look at this. I love it. So anyways, that is the story of 548 Noelton. And as always, let me know your questions, and I'll see you next time. All right, so there's all the behind the scenes. Obviously, if you have a home to sell in the Knoxville area, please give me a call. I would love to help you be successful as well. That is it for 548 Noelton Drive. Congrats to the sellers, congrats to the buyers. I'm Haley Jones, and I'll see you next time.